Yo guys, what's up? This is Adam 2025 for you. From the Adam 2025. So on the Brazilian football channel, so you know what to do. So like, subscribe, comment. So we're gonna be doing a new series. So yeah, it's about talking about like basically hopefully all 20 clubs, all 20 Brazilian clubs, what they did this year, a review, talking about every single thing about it. So yeah, so we'll talk about everything. So yeah, so we're gonna start off basically we're gonna so yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this new series. So like and subscribe, you know the drill. Share this to your friends. And yes, I'm trying to do this in English because I'll try to step it up for you guys so they can thank me, even though I did my best. And by the way, sorry if I couldn't show my face or turn on my camera. StreamYard always acts up, but I'm hopeful for the next review video. Um, I could have that sorted out. So thank you guys. So yeah, so that's it for the intro. So this year, so okay, so for episode one, I want to start off with I want to talk about Botafogo, the last previous champions of Brazil before Flamengo, overtook their spots. So as you could see, so yeah, so I want to talk about Botafogo, what they have done, and the improvements from last year. So yeah, so we're gonna be doing a review every single Brazilian club. I I'll just go with whatever I choose basically to review I guess first. So yeah, so let's talk about Botafogo. So yeah, as well we will talk about their fixtures heading to 2026. So let's talk about them. So all right, so here's the thing. So yeah, so after that amazing year they had in 2024, them winning Copa Libertadores and winning the Brazilian League in their first time ever in their history, which I'm trying to find an image basically. Basically, yeah, they did that historic history of an amazing this, and Botafogo basically um did the double last year, and they were the pride of Brazilian football after shocking the world, especially Brazil, showing up in these games and but yeah, as you guys could see them, yep, champions of America and Brazil. So yeah, Botafogo. So I want to talk about what happened to them in 2025 after that phenomenal season so they had. So all right, so we're gonna review fixtures one by one. So yeah, so what happened? What happened to them? Why is Botafogo unfortunately had a downfall or a massive turnover after an amazing year they had last year, winning both the Brazilian League and the Libertadores? Outstanding. Last year they were the most consistent team before everything went back to their biggest rivals, black and red, basically. So all right, so what is Botafogo? If anyone is wondering, so introduce them. Botafogo is basically one of the four teams that are based in Rio de Janeiro, or should I say the Carioca competition. Is one of the four big clubs of Rio de Janeiro, even though it is the smallest out of the four, basically. Basically, a neighborhood in Rio de Janeiro, basically filled with colorful neighborhood lights, basically, and that's where the football club and football stadium is. Their mascot is basically based off a dog, with a star as well. That's who they represent, basically. all black and white. So yeah, so I want to talk about what happened in 2025. What happened? What went? Yeah, so yeah, Botafogo. All right, let me just see if I could pull this over from what I don't know if this only brings me. I have to score this. That's gonna take me a while. So I just want to go to the end of 2024. Yeah, Botafogo became champion in the year 2024, winning both Libertadores and the league for the first time in history. But things started to change. So basically, after Botafogo lifted on the last day against Sao Paulo, defeating Palmeiras in the title race, getting revenge from 2023, and of course, and celebrating the title for the first time ever, winning that league title as they were being the best Brazilian club of last year, basically. But and then since Botafogo won the Libertadores, as I'm still talking about 2024, they had to play Pachuca in the new FIFA Intercontinental Cup, Derby's do America. What's this called? Derby's do America. Game. Basically, the winner of the Derby's, with the new FIFA Intercontinental Cup format, as we all know, with the new Club World Cup, which Botafogo did took place. Being both, they did qualify for the 2025. They were based Botafogo, I think, was the last club besides LAFC to qualify for the 2025 Club World Cup, the new edition, even though FIFA wants to do, two of them. So Botafogo, along with their rivals Flamengo and Fluminense, they've also qualified for the FIFA Club World Cup, of course, because they won the Libertadores. So let's talk about what happened. So this was the last time against I want to bring this up. So this game against Pachuca, December 11th, same day when Barcelona played Dortmund in the league stage, basically, of the Champions League. Botafogo unfortunately lost 3-0 to Pachuca, despite having more balls. And of course, Pachuca had the better shots. I mean, I don't know, Botafogo apparently had the same number of shots, but they had the better shots on target, being more clinical. And Botafogo kind of fumbled, unfortunately, not doing anything, especially conceding a goal in the span of 30 minutes, 15 open play goals. And unfortunately for them, the season ended. But I kind of get it for Botafogo, because the difference is with this year compared to last year's Derby to America, Botafogo only had like less than 72 hours to prepare, like just 3 days to prepare, because they had to fly to Qatar and like it gets tiring. So I kind of get that. And basically, the manager basically, unfortunately, their manager who won them the Gloria Botafogo, Arthur. Unfortunately, what's his name? If he's there, Arthur Jorge was he basically got fired or parted ways. Who's apparently now at Al Rain, actually, since they sacked him, and that's a club in Qatar, the same place that. Yeah, they so immediately on the spot they fired him and they just left him up in Qatar, even though visiting back to Portugal to sign for Al Rain after delivering for Botafogo, those two trophies, those two massive trophies, and he was such a great manager, of course. Botafogo's best manager, leading glory, trying to talk to with the big boys competitions and not trying to be like small. But unfortunately, in the year 2025, we're going to say what things went wrong. So Botafogo, unfortunately, they decided to fire Arthur Jorge. I kind of forgot what reason, and I have no idea, but I think it might have been a stupid room. I know this is his record at Al Rayin, 13 wins, 3 draws, 25 games. So he was there since April 2024, immediately when the Campeonato, or should I say Brazilian league, started, he was immediately brought in, and ever since then they had the good manager of him. Yes, we're going to talk about the players. He led them to glory consistently, good football basically. Not always like the best, but like kind of cool fluidity. And yeah, this guy's also at Braga for almost 2 years, where he left for Botafogo, and that led them to some success, especially to make it relevant. Showing up in every single big game, Botafogo, acting like they are with this one big dog instead of this one small puppy, and then they did. But unfortunately for Botafogo, in the year 2025, these are the things that went wrong. So yeah, that was it for. Yeah, even though the 3-0 against Pachuca, that wasn't his fault, and I think that's kind of stupid. I mean, I heard that he might wanted some more money, and the club said no, maybe. Even though Botafogo are owned by John Textor, who is basically the current, CEO for Botafogo, Leon, and two other clubs, Palace, I think, from England. I could be wrong. Yet this partnership, as we saw what happened with Leon in like late July, August, with possible relegation to La Liga 2, League 2, basically in France. So yeah, so Botafogo, they had some players, of course, that they brought and got in. But yeah, so unfortunately, so yeah, Botafogo had the squad of let me try to pull this out. They have they have the squad, of course. Hold on, let me try to find it. Oh, come on, not the September 14 one. No, not the September 14 one. December 8th I'm talking about. So Botafogo, they had Angulo Jesus, they had Luis Enrique, Thiago Almada, Jorge Gregory, basically. Jorge. But yeah, some of these guys were here last year, and they were the reason why Botafogo became like relevant, basically. They're good players. Some of them are still here, but unfortunately, but yeah, this was the game against Sao Paulo, for example, and ever since then, they rotated it, and then, but yeah, they won them the league. The league was done, but unfortunately for Botafogo, after the Intercontinental Cup, they had to sold some players, unfortunately, to Europe, which got them, unfortunately, weaker. Unfortunately, after they parted ways with Arthur, which it probably was ridiculous, unless he wanted more money, because of course you can't really even though the club probably said no for some reason, but even though I think that's stupid still, because it just makes the club manage it weaker. Basically, they had to let go Thiago Almada, who's now at Atletico Madrid, who plays their game tomorrow against Girona as of recording this, and immediately joined after the Club World Cup. He stayed with Leon, made it to the quarterfinals of the Europa League, which we all know what happened. That 5-4 Manchester United comeback, which you know the drill. Or what was that score? 5-4, right? Oh my days, bro. But it was just crazy. But yeah, Savinho, I think he's still there. Yes, he's still at Botafogo, but he was key player, especially they had link-ups, Drogo Bonita, between Luis Enrique and Gul Jesus. But yeah, they released some of these guys in December, unfortunately. January, I mean, and in early February. They offload a lot of guys, unfortunately. Unfortunately, to Europe. Unfortunately. I mean, a lot of these guys are still in here, don't get me wrong. But, like, a lot of them have just went. And, of course, you have Botafogo, basically, as we're going to talk about. But, yeah, some of these guys are no longer here. And Gul Jesus did stay for Botafogo for another 6-7 months. He didn't left until the Club World Cup, until after the Club World Cup, where he played, which Botafogo, which we all knew that despite losing the FIFA Intercontinental Cup against Pachuca in the quarterfinals or derbies to America, and unfortunately, Botafogo couldn't meet Real Madrid, because I thought they were going to meet Real Madrid in that Intercontinental Cup. The one that wrapped up between Flamengo, I'm talking about last year. But last year was Real Madrid Pachuca, which we all know Real Madrid won 3-0. Killing Mbappe, Vinny, Rodrigo goals, winning a trophy. Pachuca just didn't have quality enough. Flamengo literally gave PSG a much tougher game, competitive, much more tighter, much more advanced, much more, like locked in basically. And of course this is how close the Americas, win a trophy. Because no matter if it's CONCACAF, CONMEBOL, I root for the Americas because of course I want the Americas to be successful generally. As I will make my thoughts about the FIFA Intercontinental Cup. I was trying to get, by the way, big up to Red and Blue. I was trying to get him on tonight, but it looks like he's busy. So I might have to wait by tomorrow. I might have to wait and see. I'll have to talk about him because yeah, I've discussed him. But yeah, don't forget, Botafogo were in the Club World Cup group, hard group. It wasn't the group of death, or it kind of felt like a group of death. But they were different with a hard group with PSG and Atletico Madrid, which we're going to get into it. But yeah, that's what happened in 2024. And that's how the season ended. They just have less fewer players, basically. So yeah, and it's an unfortunate. Yeah, hold on. But yeah, you see there. So Botafogo, after the loss against Pachuca, Botafogo, basically, heading to 2025, they had to offload players. They qualified for the Libertadores again after winning it for the first time ever and participating for the first time in I think they might have participated in Libertadores before, but it's been such a while. But yeah, ever since they've been down to Serie B a few years ago. But ever since with that John Textor ownership, it kind of improved. Even though Botafogo did drop off, which I'm going to explain. So yeah, so Botafogo, we will review the fixtures. So yeah, like I said, they were going to play Libertadores again. They were going to go for the league. They qualified for the Club World Cup. And of course, they just finished into Continental Cup. And the only way to enter the Intercontinental Cup is, if they win Libertadores again, basically, for the 2025 edition. Because remember, it's every year that tournament. FIFA tries to separate, but even though they are related. But yeah, but they were also in the Super Cup because they won the league. So yeah, they had so many trophies of opportunity. I did predict maybe Botafogo to drop off. Maybe they won't win the league or Libertadores, but maybe a Super Cup. Hey, Carioca, I thought they would probably, since their biggest rivals like Flamengo, a lot harder than ever, but it looks like it didn't. It looks like it didn't turn out, unfortunately. So yeah, Botafogo were in 5 different competitions, 5 different competitions, but including one that is one game, basically. The FIFA Club World Cup was by far the biggest. Libertadores, second, and then you got your bread and butter, the league, Copa do Brazil as well. Can't forget. So yeah, and the Carioca, so the in-state. So yeah, so the in-state competition begins first, of course, and of course the Super Cup does being played in the middle between. So yeah, so what went wrong in my opinion, 2025? So here's the thing. But yeah, unfortunately, a lot of things have not looked well for 2025. So Botafogo, they returned to football on January 11th. This was before the Super Cup final between Real Madrid and Barcelona last year. I mean this year, but Botafogo hosted Mersin FC, and unfortunately they lost 2-1 at home. Unfortunately, that was kind of a bad look. They didn't even score from open play. The problem is they lost 2-1. They needed a penalty to get a goal. They even had a red card at the 13th minute. and they still conceded. This was kind of a bad performance. I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong. This was Botafogo's rotated squad. It was basically their C team, basically. That's why they lost, so that's why competitive. But like, yeah, this was the game, of course, and then they bounced back against Portuguesa, for example. Which let me see, they still had a few B team because normally like in the first few games, Botafogo were general Brazilian clubs as they return to their in-state competition, like rest some of their main players and they don't mind like losing a few games. So yeah, so Botafogo, I gave you that, and then I thought it was just that. I mean, yes, they still of course use the B team for most games until but yeah, for Botafogo they used their B team for like the first half of Carioca, and I know it was kind of embarrassing a little bit. I mean, it was meant to rest of the main players are just taking that preseason off. So yeah, so unfortunate losses here and there, but unfortunately they keep on losing here and there. But and then Botafogo keeps on losing. They were not using the 18, but slowly more members. Hilton, Vitinho, who I think he's still there, right? No, he's no longer at Botafogo. All right. Oh, he's back on loan. Went to on loan as of March. Left ever since. Ah, gotcha. So that's what happened, basically, literally. So yeah, so this was and then but Botafogo they didn't start to use the A team till Sunday, the January 26th, basically, and but yeah, and then like they started like was this on the B team I think, because I get they were just resting players from the long season they have. Yeah, this was mostly their B team, and unfortunately that's why they lost. But they didn't start use the competitivism until they played their biggest game of the season was against their rivals Fluminense before they play Flamengo the Super Cup. In the Carioca, they had to play Fluminense away. I mean, no, they were at home, and that's where that's where Botafogo's 18 basically kind of came back. Go Jesus, Savinho, and I thought Botafogo was just going as normal because Botafogo were owning Fluminense like 6, 7, 8 times in a row before they lost in September. Botafogo hosts Fluminense, beating them as always. Botafogo always owns Fluminense for some reason. And I think this was El Pelo Largo, this absolute long-headed guy made his debut for Fluminense, El Pelo Largo, because and that's why I call him, even though he's kind of a fraud, because he did the ridiculous against Vasco, which I'm gonna also make a video about Fluminense soon. So is it like a failure? So, but yeah, but Botafogo he scored a penalty equalized, but Botafogo gets a late one, seals the game 2-1, and beats these guys well deservedly. So I don't think they had the stats, unfortunately, which is I think a joke. But yeah, Botafogo. Yeah, this was basically their biggest game. And then here's the one. A few days later, after being Fluminense, they had to play Flamengo in the Super Copa do Brazil, which is held every February, the first Sunday of February, basically, which is going to happen again. It's like, and as of recording this, before I talk about this game, Flamengo's opponent in Super Cup tomorrow, we'll find out. Whoever wins Copa do Brazil tomorrow will either be Vasco or Corinthians. Remember, that tie is 0-0. We will be doing a live stream starting tomorrow, hopefully at 12:30 p.m. my time. Over there in Brazil, it's 4 p.m. The game isn't not until 1 p.m. my time, 5 p.m. over there. So I will be doing a Flamengo review for sure as well. Yeah, I was just trying to get a drink. But anyway, unfortunately for Botafogo, this was their first major test or major test, and I think Botafogo they were under an interim manager basically. Forgot his name. They played the Super Copa. This was played in like Lima or what's this called? Belém, Brazil. I think that's the city called at a neutral venue. And Flamengo unfortunately destroyed them 3-1. I know it was raining. There was like a delay during the game. Bruno Henrique wins a penalty, and of course, some people said Flamengo were getting the favorable calls, and then Bruno Henrique would go ahead and score again, basically in the next 8 minutes, and then Flamengo had the 2-0 advantage against Botafogo. There was no comparison. Unfortunately for Botafogo, they had everyone possible available, of course, minus Thiago Almada and Luis Enrique, which did miss the Jesus book. So unfortunately, it sucks for Botafogo. And then Flamengo made it 3-0. Luis Araujo, and then a few minutes later, Patrick came off the bench himself and scores. So 2 off the bench, great goals basically. And unfortunately for Botafogo, they lost the final against Flamengo. Flamengo beat them 3-1, owning them, winning that Super Copa do Brazil. As Flamengo does win their first trophy of the title, which we will be making a video and stream about Flamengo as well, as they ended the season 6 trophy, almost the 7 trophy record, but only because it got stopped. It was hard to beat PSG. But yeah, so unfortunate for Botafogo. What went wrong? Who was their interim manager? This guy, well, he didn't knew what he was doing. I mean, it's a mix of both. And the club didn't back him. So unfortunately, they ended up losing the Super Cup. So that was the first proper L of the season. And they bounced back against Union. And then they go ahead and lose this game. And then Botafogo would have to play Flamengo again, the derby, but this time the Carioca. And they ended up losing 1-0. And this was a huge. There's also basically hold on, that's right now. The Ortiz got the winner. And this was at the same time. I forgot who was playing that day. I think Corinthians was playing Santos. I could be wrong. I kind of remember. I was doing the watch line. I didn't have access to this. But yeah. Botafogo had everyone available, and they still lost to Flamengo 1-0 because they normally do well. And yeah, Flamengo, they own them again. The Carioca derby, and there was this huge scuffle fight. Someone's knocked out, and of course they were trying that they're saying Chelsea this and all that, before they got that. So yeah, unfortunately for Botafogo, things went downhill ever since this loss against Rio de Janeiro. They played better, but they still lost. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. Since they won the Libertadores, they played they also had another trophy on the line again for the Recopa against Racing Club, the Sudamericana champions from last year, which also the Recopa will be happening as well. But this time between Flamengo and Lanús, which I will be making a video about that as well. So unfortunately it got worse for Botafogo. Let me sum this up. They lost 4-0 to Racing Club. They lost 1-0 to Vasco as well in the derby. And things just got worse. Yeah, the interim, even he was fired or was replaced immediately. Basically, they hired So unfortunately, they lost 2-0 in Argentina. And they just embarrassed Brazil by losing 2-0 at home. And this is worse because the one in Argentina, they only lost 2-0 because of a penalty kick. They only conceded one open play goal, and they also had a red card, Botafogo. This time, they lose 2-0 at home. They gave up. Despite having no one possession, basically. And they still lost. They conceded 10 shots on target. This was an embarrassing. Even John couldn't maintain it, bro. This was embarrassing. honestly, and that's where things start to collapse for Botafogo. And yeah, Botafogo lost another trophy. This was kind of sad. This is what went wrong, basically, unfortunately. And unfortunately, due to Botafogo, unfortunately, they finished 9 in the Carioca Serie A, Carioca, Rio de Janeiro in-state competition. They finished ninth. They were nowhere near the playoffs. They did not qualify for the semifinals because they were nowhere near fourth. And that was kind of embarrassing. I'm not gonna lie. And now, and then Botafogo, this was an embarrassing start to the year. So Botafogo was given at least a month to rest, and we all know the fixtures will be reviewed. Botafogo had to go ahead and they had to play Palmeiras away at the Allianz Parque, their new building up full rivalry, as we saw in 2024. Botafogo kind of owning Palmeiras, and then the year before that, Palmeiras getting revenge and all that. And yeah, so they had. So what Botafogo basically did, they hired this guy from Mexico. I mean, he's Portuguese as well. They hired this guy, which I'm also gonna. They hired this guy, Brendan Pioli. Brendan, I hope I pronounce his name. Who was former manager. Oh yeah, I forgot. Oh yeah, that's true. He was hired for Fortaleza. That's true, and he got fired as well, or resigned, I think, as well. And it didn't do much either for Fortaleza. And the guy hasn't had a job since, so something to keep an eye on. I mean, we will be there for Fortaleza. But and speaking of him, he managed Toluca, by the way. Which it may be off topic, but I have to mention this. Toluca, under him, it was fun to watch, even though they choked in the league. But now they replaced him with Antonio Mohamed, and now they're bicampeonato, which means Toluca have won back-to-back Liga MX trophies. They tied Chivas. They beat America in the final. They beat Tigres in the final last week on pens after being 2-2 in the tense penalty shootout. And now they're even cooking and even better after him. Even though I thought he did a great job at Toluca, honestly, of kind of manage it, 52 wins. And I know his last game was the poor back in November, which they did lost to America 4-0 in aggregate by November 30th. That was his last game, and that's when he got sacked. So this is what Botafogo basically brought him in. They brought him Pio, basically. And then his first major test was against Palmeiras already. The club was given, a whole week to prepare, basically. And yeah, it ended 0-0. And that's when Palmeiras introduced Victor Roque, who made his debut as a starter. Esteval started basically in this game. So in Botafogo, actually, this was a great debut. Yeah, Palmeiras had most of the possession, but Botafogo, they had the better shots. They were just not being clinical enough. And I thought this was an even game. This was an okay, intense 0-0. I was like, okay, that's something positive to bounce back. So yeah, so even though they did have to play a Libertadores game because they were in a group of Universitario Chile and two other teams, which I forgot. I mentioned about that. And unfortunately, they lost 1-0, unfortunately, away from home. But they did bounce back the following weekend by beating UB2 2-0. And I thought they might be doing something positive. I thought Botafogo started to move a bit better. And I thought things were going okay after an okay debut against Palmeiras, but disappointing against Universitario. They also beat Chile. Yeah, that's another team. They bounced back as well at home. So it was getting interesting. But unfortunately, they had frustrating. I thought they were going pretty okay, but then unfortunately, they had a frustrating loss against Bragantino. They lost. They drew São Paulo. They lost to Atlético Mineiro. And then the old signs started to come back. They lost to Estudiantes away in Argentina, which was Flamengo quarterfinals opponent. But they did have a little bit of a good run as well between April to May. They had a good bit of a run, but Botafogo, the cracks were so showing. But yeah, Botafogo defeated, their second biggest rivals, Fluminense, once again. Vitinho scoring and Savinho. And Fluminense as well getting owned by Botafogo. They only had one shot on target. Botafogo always turns up in these derbies, basically. And Botafogo, I thought they were doing okay again. And then they defeated Capital FC in the cup, basically, as they move on to like the round of 16. Yeah, they did also suffer 1-0 to Bahia. Even though, to be fair to Bahia, they did give everyone else a hard time. Flamengo lost, Palmeiras lost, Corinthians drew, São Paulo lost their victory. So it wasn't just Botafogo and Salvador basically that they lost. And then Botafogo won away from home 2-1. They demolished, and smashed Internacional 4-0. This was on the same day where Barcelona defeated Real Madrid in El Clasico 4-3 in the league to wrap up La Liga themselves. And it was just getting started. I thought they were going like good, pick up a form, but yeah, they destroyed Internacional 4-0. They dismantled these guys. No, not the one from. Okay, show me. Go Jesus. He absolutely destroyed these guys, bro. This guy was horrible that day. But yeah, Botafogo, things were going pretty well, honestly. So yeah, I just think the good form was going pretty well. They beat Estudiantes at home. They drew Flamengo. Disappointing lot, but here's the thing. Botafogo, they did, but here's the real test for Botafogo. Heading to June, I thought they were doing okay. I thought they were having good results. They beat Neymar Santos. Neymar got sent off in this game. They beat Serie A 3-2, even though it was a close one. And guess what? I thought they were going good. And there was the real test, the Club World Cup group stage. So let's talk about it. Where they were in the group with PSG. Let's talk about it. So they were in a group with PSG, the current champions of Europe, which we all know they demolished Inter Milan 5-0. Group of Atletico Madrid, Simeone, Seattle Sounders, who would win the Leagues Cup even though not until August. And Botafogo were literally placed. And guess what? They expected more. They finished second, basically. Botafogo, they started off their campaign against Seattle. They won 2-1, as expected, and this was in Seattle. Christian Rondon gets one back, but Botafogo just did enough. And this was by far the biggest upset of the tournament. Botafogo handed PSG their first defeat of the season, of the year. Okay, not the year, but like the first defeat in like kind of a while, basically. And Botafogo and PSG, they kind of rotated a lot. I know Dembele wasn't. They had almost everyone. They only rotated a bit. Nuno Mendes was not there. Fabian, they were all getting rested at least. They rotate, and guess what? There's that good counterattack, and Savinho assisted in Gol Jesus and passed through Donnarumma and couldn't score as Rada or Hernandez was responsible for the goal as they were getting cooked. And then Gol Jesus decided to shock the tournament. This was by far the biggest win, which I thought Botafogo would do something. But yeah, I thought Botafogo was going to be on top of the world, and maybe they might just do. But yeah, even though you could say Luis Enrique's PSG was kind of like tired, they didn't like want to take this game seriously. Botafogo wanted it more, so yeah, they did. This was by far the biggest win, despite some hard games. They did, and yeah, and I thought things were going pretty well. This was a big win for Botafogo by beating the champions of Europe. And I was like, how? It was just crazy, bro. And here's the thing, and here's the defeat to Atletico Madrid. Unfortunately, Atleti needed like 2 or 3 goals to beat Botafogo. to advance themselves because it was going down to goal difference. Because PSG gave Atletico Madrid past them 4-0, which was an advantage to Botafogo. Seattle Sounders couldn't compete or couldn't do anything to break down these clubs. Griezmann scored his first goal in a few months because he hasn't been doing that great in the year 2025 overall. But as this game should have been 0-0, it could have been penalty here and there. Atletico had the better shots. But yeah, after the goal, but it was too late. Botafogo held on. They upset it. Even though they didn't defeat Atletico Madrid, but Atletico Madrid were knocked out. And guess what? Instead of having an Inter Miami versus Atleti match, which people thought it was going to happen, I thought it might have happened, they've actually pulled up the old rivalry back. Not the old rivalry, the new rivalry. Palmeiras Botafogo. Again, in the Club World Cup, we managed to get. And now, guess what? Palmeiras, they beat Botafogo, unfortunately. They got revenge. And they got revenge against Botafogo. And yeah, these two clubs meet in Philadelphia and on a Saturday, June 28th, 3 months after that 0-0 draw. And 7 months after that 3-1 pounding. Palmeiras has finally defeated Botafogo in almost 2 years, and they got revenge. This game went to extra time. This was a knockout round. During the first 90 minutes, there wasn't much. Teams that come in not more good, that people were just batting up the ball. Danilo versus Mauricio again, trying to battle, and now Martinez, Grimanich, Allen, oh my days. Richard Rios got the assist. Allen or Paulinho came off the bench, scored, even though he did came off of an injury, because unfortunately, I think he went down injured. Unfortunately, Gobiano subbed in, and and Palmeiras, they got revenge against Botafogo. They got revenge. Palmeiras, they deserve to win. Botafogo trying to push for it. Gomez got sent off for Palmeiras, but it was too late for Botafogo. So this was how they were doing. This was only 50%, but then we managed to get a Club World Cup, round of 16. I was just happy, bro. I wanted to enjoy this game. And this is what basically happened. And but here's the thing for Palmeiras. By the way, I forgot to mention this. Yes, they fight till the end, basically. Yep, Alder Ferreira. As they reach the quarterfinals, which they all know that they got knocked out by Chelsea in the quarterfinals, which I will be making a video about Palmeiras, so we'll just do that. So we'll just do that very soon. And unfortunately, guess what? You remember Pioli, or it's not pronounced Pioli, it's Perivi, but I'm trying to say basically Palmeiras was basically his first game, the 0-0 draw, and guess what? After having up and down roller coaster form and thought they figured it out with good form and good things is happening, we all thought this was going to continue. Palmeiras was his first game, right? And then the roller coaster ride between March to June. Guess what? Palmeiras, that was his last match. Palmeiras started just to end it in the Club World Cup, and he got sacked. Pioli got sacked. He got sacked. He left for Botafogo. So for Botafogo, they ended him. They ended basically his season. So they ended his season. That's the crazy part for Botafogo. As for But yeah, and then that time period, they got mad. They decided to fire him basically, even though they could have given him more time. But they're not happy for the Club World Cup. Guess who they decided to bring in? Carlo Ancelotti's son, David Ancelotti, who basically left again, basically. Which Botafogo, they had 2 weeks of rest from Philadelphia. They didn't play for another 2 weeks, where they take on Vasco. And the derby was played in Brasilia in the in the um in the league. Vasco's declared the home team, but it wasn't played at San Giovanni due to size, of course. So this had to be played in Brasilia. No, in Brasilia. And Botafogo defeated Vasco 2-0. Set pieces. But yeah, Vasco were horrible that day as well. And Vasco, we're going to get into them as well. But yeah, in this black and white, Amazon Derby, I think it's called. Like, it's kind of like Friendship Derby, too. So I'm like, yep. But yeah, this is what happened. This is what happened. So yeah, so they hired or did they hire Ancelotti? No, they were using an interim. Oh yeah, you're right. Oh yeah, that absolute scrub. They hired him basically. Carlo Ancelotti's son, David Ancelotti, Portuguese basically, and he was basically coaching until 2025. Looking his first proper job as his dad managed the national team after leaving Real Madrid basically, as we all know what happened at the Bernabeu all year long, especially the Champions League against City, Bayern, El Clasico against Barcelona. So yeah, but unfortunately, yeah, they had some up and down results. They drew 0-0 Victoria. They got a last minute winner against Sporting Recife, who are going down as one of the worst Brazilian team of all time. And again, yeah, they got revenge, but unfortunately for Botafogo, they knew they were not chasing the league. So yeah, they played Corinthians, and guess what? In the cup, they were drawn the round of 16 against Bragantino, who they won 2-0. They unfortunately lost to Cruzeiro at home. A ridiculous performance. Bragantino, they won 3-0. They started off good again. They defeated Fortaleza 5-0. Which they also got relegated. They beat El Diaquito at home. This was basically the first leg of the Libertadores, but unfortunately things kind of got worse. This was a game I didn't watch long. Palmeiras Botafogo. They met once again for the third time in a year. And I thought they probably could have met in the Libertadores semifinals, but it didn't happen. Unfortunately for Botafogo, they couldn't score against Palmeiras. They had the better shots and they still bloody lost. And I thought that was a bit embarrassing. Because Palmeiras, they were not that much threatening. They made one open goals based because of how wide open. That was unacceptable. Thought this was a ridiculous performance. Not like bad, but like kind of not taken in being clinical wise, which they should be. Because you guys got the better possession of the ball. They bottled it. They lost to El Diaquito. They gave up. They ran out of the round 6 of the Libertadores. And Botafogo's reign at the Libertadores ended on August 21st. And then, yeah, they lost Libertadores. They lost thing. They played UB2 away, 1-3-1. They played Bragantino again, winning that game 4-1. And as they head to the international break, but before that, they got Vasco in the quarterfinals. And that game was at the St. Gennaro. It ended 1-1 as we were there. And then, yeah, and guess what? On September 11th, unfortunately, on the anniversary of the attacks, Vasco upset Botafogo. Botafogo was absolutely awful that day, missing all penalties, letting Vasco go to the semis. Because I thought we were going to get Botafogo for the Men's Day. But yeah, they got knocked out as we await the final tomorrow. And it was a joke, bro. Because Vasco, I'll make a video about these guys after the Copa de Brazil. It was just awful, basically. And just didn't play. It's just not good. I have no idea why we're using this format. Of course, is that, of course, for. And yeah, and unfortunately, got knocked out Copa de Brazil. Unfortunately, they got knocked out. It was a joke. They lost to Sao Paulo. They bottled a 3-0 lead against Mirassol. I'm not kidding. They bottled a 3-0 lead. They did also drew 0-0 at their ground. They were 3-0 up in the first 40 minutes, and they capitulated immediately in the second half. That's just embarrassing. That was, wow. That was crazy. Bottle job working. And yes, of course, we will be doing the new Brazilian Serie A 2026 review of schedules. So I'm going to work on that. But yeah, I'm just trying to. But that was embarrassing. Botafogo, they gave up basically everything, basically. They beat Atletico Mineiro, drew 1-1 Grêmio for the first time, like 10 games for the Menze. Beats Botafogo in like 3 years. And the owning them just gave up. It was done. They lost 2-0 at the Maracanã. Botafogo were absolutely awful. They absolutely didn't do anything, bro. They deserved to lose. So yeah, they lost to Fluminense. And then shit started to crash down on Ancelotti. They beat Bahia 2-0, 2-1. They lost to Internacional 2-0. Unfortunately, they lost to their biggest rivals, Flamengo. Unfortunately, getting owned as well. Hard to score a single goal as well. They lost 3-0 at home. The Flamengo and Palmeiras would fight the Maracanã. These were the results. They can't even beat Santos, who didn't have Neymar. A good 0-0 draw. I mean, that's so impressive 3-0 win against Vasco, kind of. But yeah, these were the results that were happening. And for Botafogo, that's how their season basically ended. They drew 2-2 Corinthians. They drew 2-2 Cruzeiro, back-to-back away games. They did beat Fortaleza a few weeks ago in an impressive 2-0 win. Oh shoot, you're kidding me. Already! Brazilian Serie A is back. Holy shit. Are they trying to reveal the fixtures? I have to make a video about this. We haven't even gotten started, and we're already in 2026. Season just ended, and it's already starting. Like, CBF is just right now by us. So yeah, so there we go. This was the game I did, the final watch along for Botafogo. They won 4-2 basically. They won 4-2. It was basically a party. Fortaleza basically got relegated basically. And yeah, Botafogo, they absolutely deserve to win. No doubt about that. So yeah, I hope so yeah, there's my long talking. I think I said everything. So yeah, this is where the final results. And yeah, for Botafogo, that's how the season ends. On a positive win. They finished 7th in the table behind Fluminense. Oh yeah, since we're into the new season. And guess what? They have to play Cruzeiro already. Already. Is that true? This game's gonna be at 7 a.m.? We'll find out. Ah, come on. Don't tell me this game is on a Wednesday. Because it's Champions League. What's this called? Match day, 8th. You're kidding me. And this match was literally before match day 6, and you're already back in the league? Carioca? I have no idea what CBF is doing. Like, come on. I can't believe this is actually happening. So they won't be back till the 21st of January against Portuguese, the new Carioca season. So yeah, so that wraps up Botafogo. Unfortunately, David Ancelotti, aka Carlo Ancelotti's son, unfortunately, got sacked or resigned as well. It just didn't work out either. So with this Botafogo team, I'm gonna say about the problems. unfortunately, even though I don't know if I can't find the tweet anyways. So that's how Botafogo season wraps up. Basically, what are my thoughts? What went wrong? Unfortunately, in the domestic, Carioca, they underperformed really badly. Of course, finishing ninth, far from the final stages. We all know they lost the Super Cup to Flamengo 3-1. And unfortunately, yeah, they go trophyless. It was completely bad. I lost more matches than all of 2024 by certain points. That's how bad it was, unfortunately. In terms of consistency, they've been pretty poor, even especially in mid-season. And getting eliminated by the worst Vasco in history, likely. It's kind of embarrassing. I'm not gonna lie. 2025 absolutely sucks. Unfortunately for Botafogo, it was a transition domestic weird year basically because they were riding high with global continental hopes, and now with both domestic and global fixtures in the squad, the different results reflects the club ambition and reality basically trying and all that. The win against PSG was by far, of course, the biggest win and showed potential. And a result made it clear Botafogo was far from domination. So that PSG win was by far like the biggest win, but like it was just not sustainable. Like the PSG win, but they did absolutely nothing. And I thought with Botafogo, what they got wrong is probably either the squad, managing, and like everything combined. With the owners, John Texter might have gotten things wrong, and I think this was a roller coaster. The only thing Botafogo got right is they managed to qualify for the Libertadores again next year, even though it's likely qualifying, I think. But yeah, as they will have to show it up, they do have to fight them. So there's hope that they could still do something. And like I heard they might have something new partnership ownership. I don't know. But unfortunately for Botafogo, I thought that this was poor. I have to give it like a C minus. Yes, it's not like terrible like Vasco da Gama, even though Vasco might go ahead and win that Copa do Brazil tomorrow, and that covers up the cracks after 14 years, even though they're not innocent. So yeah, so that's the unfortunate basically, and this is why they fix up, but like yeah, I'm giving Botafogo a B minus to C plus to C basically. Or actually, no, C minus to D. Yes, they didn't fall off worse, but they lost everything, unfortunately. Unfortunately, very important. They lost everything. Unfortunately, of course, I know it was impossible to win. The club broke up, but all of them was against their Brazilian rivals, yes. Unfortunately. And of course, you're some yourself because you couldn't keep up. Of course. So, yeah, so. And PSG, they just didn't have a great game, and this is why it shows you why they didn't beat Chelsea in the Club World Cup themselves. So yeah, so for Botafogo, I think moving forward 2026, just focus. I don't know. I don't know if they'll bring back Arthur. I don't know. Just bring some more of a good manager and like, let's not just say just fix it up yourself. Find the replacements of Luis Enrique, at least style program profile. Thiago Almada, same thing. So yeah, so that's how Botafogo get in 2025. Kind of a massive downfall. I'm not gonna lie, this was less than I expected, or more of than I expected. I did predict a drop off. Maybe I did predict them, but like it's just was like yeah, it's just like kind of a lot basically. So it really kind of got to a lot. So yeah, But Botafogo, I just think they need to fix up a lot. They got a lot of work to do. So yeah, so that's it for Botafogo. I hope you guys told me about all the news stories. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Basically, hold on, my bad. And especially like and subscribe. Sorry if this was 1 hour, but yeah, I'm just trying to do everything. So good night.